There is a Boeing 737 MAX 8 sitting on a stand at Dublin Airport. It landed 11 minutes ago. The passengers are still walking through the terminal, and already the next passengers are boarding. Not metaphorically, not approximately, literally at the same time. The inbound passengers exit through the rear stairs. The outbound passengers board through the front stairs. The cabin crew are resetting seat pockets while people are still finding their seats. The fueling truck is connected. The ground crew are loading the final bags. The pilots completed their pre-departure checks before the inbound flight even landed, using flight plan data sent to the cockpit electronically while they were still in the air. In 25 minutes, that aircraft will push back. It will fly to its next destination. It will land, turn around in 25 minutes, and fly again. It will do this 6 or 7 times today. It will fly approximately 12 to 13 block hours before it parks for the night. That same model of aircraft, operated by a full-service European carrier on comparable short-haul routes, will fly approximately 9 to 10 hours today. The aircraft are identical. The physics are identical. The difference is entirely operational, and it represents one of the most significant competitive advantages in commercial aviation. Today, we're going to break down exactly how Ryanair does it. Every lever, every system, every contract clause, and airport negotiation that combines to extract 25% more flying time from the same aircraft than their competitors manage. And we're going to quantify what that difference actually means in revenue, because the numbers are larger than most people realize. Let's start with the metric itself. Aircraft utilization is measured in block hours, the time from when an aircraft's parking brake is released at the departure gate to when it is set again at the arrival gate. It includes taxi time, flight time, and any holding. It does not include turnaround time on the ground between flights. For a Boeing 737 on European short-haul routes, the industry average sits between 9 and 10 block hours per day. Legacy carriers on comparable aircraft typically land in this range. Ryanair consistently achieves 12 to 13 block hours per day across their fleet. That gap, roughly 3 block hours per aircraft per day, sounds modest. It isn't. A Boeing 737 MAX 8 in Ryanair configuration carries 197 passengers. At Ryanair's average fare, a full aircraft generates somewhere around 10 to 12,000 euros per flight on a typical short-haul sector. 3 additional block hours per day across a fleet of over 500 aircraft translates to somewhere in the region of 300 to 400 additional flights per day across the network. At even half full load factors, that is hundreds of millions of euros in annual revenue generated, not by buying more aircraft, not by hiring more pilots, but purely by operating the existing fleet more efficiently. This is why utilization is not an operational footnote. It is a core commercial weapon. The most visible element of Ryanair's utilization strategy is the 25-minute turnaround. To understand why this is remarkable, consider what has to happen in those 25 minutes. Nearly 200 passengers must disembark. The cabin crew must conduct a full safety check, collecting rubbish, resetting tray tables, checking seatbelts, replacing safety cards. The aircraft must be refueled. Any checked bags must be unloaded and replacement bags loaded. The next 200 passengers must board, find seats, and stow baggage. The doors must close. The pilots must receive final weight and balance figures and complete the pre-departure checklist, then pushback. At a legacy carrier, this process typically takes 45 minutes to an hour. Ryanair does it in 25, and the way they do it is not magic. It is system design. The first and most important element is what Ryanair deliberately does not do. They do not carry significant cargo. Their checked baggage operation is minimal by design. Every passenger who pays the fee to avoid checking a bag is also unknowingly helping Ryanair turn the aircraft around faster. Fewer checked bags means less time loading and unloading the hold. That difference alone is worth 5 to 8 minutes per turnaround. The second element is dual door boarding, where most airlines board from the front only, creating a bottleneck as passengers in row 30 wait for rows 1 through 15 to settle. Ryanair boards from both front and rear simultaneously wherever the stand allows it. Inbound passengers exit from the rear, while outbound passengers board from the front. The two streams run in parallel. This single process change reduces boarding time by 8 to 12 minutes on a full aircraft. The third element is catering. Ryanair sells food from trolleys during the flight rather than providing complimentary meals. Beyond the revenue this generates, the operational consequence is that there are no catering trucks accessing the aircraft between flights. No trolleys to swap, no meal carts to load. The catering is self-contained. Every legacy carrier on comparable routes has catering vehicles arriving at the aircraft during the turnaround. Ryanair eliminates this step entirely. The fourth element is cabin cleaning. Ryanair does not conduct a full cabin clean between every flight. Cabin crew collect rubbish and reset the cabin, but the deep clean happens at end of day or overnight bases. Passengers notice this. It is a genuine product trade-off. But in turnaround terms, it removes 5 to 8 minutes and eliminates the coordination complexity of managing a cleaning crew between every rotation. Each of these changes saves minutes, stacked across 6 turnarounds per aircraft per day, across a fleet of 500 aircraft. Those minutes accumulate into an enormous operational advantage. Before I continue, here is something that surprises me every time I check my analytics. More than 90% of the people watching this video right now are not subscribed. 90%. Ryanair is doing aviation on a whole other level, and most people don't even know this. That is exactly the kind of story that needs to reach further. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, share this with one person who follows everything on aviation. Now, let's continue. The turnaround is visible. The airport strategy is less so, but it matters just as much. At a primary airport like Heathrow or Charles de Gaulle, an aircraft can spend 15 to 20 minutes taxiing from runway to gate after landing, and another 15 to 20 minutes taxiing back before departure. That taxi time sits outside the turnaround window, but it still consumes block hours that the aircraft could be spending in the air. At London Stansted, Ryanair's primary London base, taxi times are typically 5 to 8 minutes each way. At most of Ryanair's secondary European bases, Beauvais for Paris, Bergamo for Milan, Hahn for Frankfurt, it's similar. The airport is smaller, the runway is closer to the terminal, and there's no queue of aircraft holding ahead of you. The difference between a Heathrow operation and a Stansted operation in taxi time alone is 20 to 30 minutes per round trip. Across 6 or 7 rotations per day, that is 2 to 3 hours of additional flying time available from secondary airport operations. Time that appears directly in the utilization figures. Secondary airports also offer something even more valuable to a high utilization operator: slot freedom. At Heathrow or Amsterdam Schiphol, every departure is a constrained slot. Miss it because your inbound was delayed and you may sit on the ground for an hour waiting for a new allocation. That hour destroys utilization for the entire day on that aircraft and cascades into the next rotation. At Stansted or Bergamo, there are no slot constraints in the same sense. If Ryanair is ready to push back, they push back. Time recovered from an efficient turnaround can actually be banked as scheduled buffer rather than surrendered to the next slot window. Slot-driven delays are one of the primary causes of utilization degradation at legacy carriers. Ryanair's secondary airport strategy largely removes this problem from the equation. There is a third dimension that operates quietly in the background: fleet age. Newer aircraft break down less often. Aircraft technical reliability is measured by dispatch reliability, the percentage of scheduled departures that actually depart without a technical delay attributable to a maintenance issue. For a modern aircraft in its early years of service, dispatch reliability typically runs above 99%. For older aircraft with more accumulated cycles, that figure can fall toward 97%. The difference sounds trivial. It isn't. Across a large fleet over a full year, 2 percentage points of dispatch reliability represents hundreds of additional technical delays and dozens of cancellations. Each technical delay that grounds an aircraft for 2 hours is 2 block hours lost from that day's utilization. Each unscheduled overnight maintenance event disrupts the entire following day's schedule for that airframe. Ryanair manages this through deliberate fleet youth. They operate one of the youngest average fleet ages of any major European carrier. Their aggressive 737 MAX ordering program, they are one of Boeing's largest customers globally, is driven in part by the utilization benefit of high dispatch reliability, not just the fuel efficiency gains the MAX offers over older variants. They also structure maintenance scheduling to minimize downtime. Line maintenance happens overnight at base, timed to release aircraft for the first departure of the following morning. Heavier checks are concentrated in the winter season when demand is lower, and the utilization cost of losing an airframe for several days is minimized. The result is a fleet that is available to fly when Ryanair needs it to fly, consistently, predictably, and at a rate that older, more varied fleets at legacy carriers cannot match. Now let's put real numbers to all of this. Ryanair operates approximately 580 aircraft. The utilization advantage over a comparable legacy carrier on similar routes is conservatively 2.5 block hours per aircraft per day, averaged across the year. 2.5 block hours per aircraft per day across 580 aircraft is 1,450 additional block hours of flying available across the fleet every single day. At an average sector length of 1 hour 45 minutes, that is roughly 830 additional flight departures per day, at 180 passengers per flight, and an average revenue of 50 euros per passenger. That is approximately 7.5 million euros per day in revenue generated purely from utilization advantage. Annualized, that approaches 2.7 billion euros. Revenue that requires no additional aircraft, no additional airport infrastructure, no additional headcount beyond what is needed to operate the schedule. This is the number that explains why Ryanair's model is so difficult to attack. The low fares are what passengers see. The utilization engine underneath is what makes the economics viable. You cannot charge 50 euros for a flight and make money if your aircraft is sitting on the ground for 14 hours a day. You can charge 50 euros and make money if it is flying for 13. Which raises the obvious question. If the utilization advantage is this significant, why don't legacy carriers simply copy it? The answer is that they cannot without ceasing to be what they are. Legacy carriers operate hub and spoke networks where connecting passengers flow through central airports. That model requires primary slot-constrained airports. You cannot connect passengers through Stansted the way you can through Heathrow, because the global network of connecting airlines is not at Stansted. The hub model locks legacy carriers into primary airports with their inherent taxi time and slot constraint penalties. This is not a choice they can reverse without abandoning their network model entirely. Legacy carriers carry belly cargo on their longer routes because it is a meaningful revenue contributor. That cargo requires loading and unloading time that cannot be eliminated without sacrificing revenue that, on many routes, exceeds the operational saving. Legacy carriers provide catering because on the business routes where they make their margin, the in-flight product is part of what corporate travel managers are paying for. Removing it saves turnaround time and destroys the premium yield that justifies the entire business class revenue model. Ryanair's utilization model works because every element of the operation, aircraft type, airport choice, route network, product offering, catering policy, bag policy, is aligned around a single objective. Keep the aircraft flying, everything else is subordinate to that. Legacy carriers are optimizing for multiple objectives simultaneously. Premium product, global connectivity, cargo revenue, corporate contract retention. Those objectives are genuinely incompatible with Ryanair level utilization. The turnaround time is not just a process. It is the physical expression of a set of strategic choices that run through every part of the business. Ryanair's utilization advantage did not appear overnight. It was constructed over 40 years through relentless incremental refinement of every element of the operation. The 25-minute turnaround target that seems aggressive today was more aggressive still when Ryanair first implemented it, and it has been tightened repeatedly as processes improved and technology enabled better coordination between ground crews, pilots, and operations control. The secondary airport strategy was not initially about utilization, it was about cost. But as Ryanair's network grew and their operational data accumulated, the utilization benefit of slot-free airports became as important as the landing fee saving, and their airport negotiations began to reflect that, with Ryanair explicitly extracting handling priority agreements and dedicated stand positioning in exchange for the traffic volume they bring. The fleet youth strategy emerged from hard experience with the cost and utilization impact of aging aircraft, and it has become more deliberate as Ryanair's scale has given them the ordering power to maintain a young fleet without paying the full list price for it. What looks from the outside like a simple low-cost airline charging for bags and selling scratch cards at 30,000 feet is, underneath, one of the most precisely engineered utilization machines in commercial aviation. Every minute the aircraft is on the ground is a minute it is not generating revenue. Ryanair has spent 4 decades making sure there are as few of those minutes as possible. If you enjoyed this video and want to actually understand how aircraft work beyond surface level explanations, there's a great resource I recommend. It's called Flight Unveiled. It's a complete bundle that covers both pilot knowledge and aircraft engineering, from aerodynamics and systems to flight instruments, navigation, and real-world operations. Instead of piecing information together from different videos, it gives you a structured, deeper understanding of aviation in one place. You can click the link that appears now in the right upper corner or in the description below.